done.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are just admitting everyone into the webinar all at once, so we will have a range of guests jumping on any moment. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll just wait one more second while people jump on the call. At lunchtime, I made the cardinal sin of not eating beforehand, so there you go. If you've got some lunch with you, enjoy. Excellent. We've had a really good response for today's webinar, so thank you for your interest and thank you for joining us as well. We may as well get underway now. So thank you again, everyone. My name is Tom Treaty. I'm the program manager for the trade employment and training working in the Queensland Training Awards. I'd like to extend a welcome to everyone joining us for today's second webinar of our 2026 webinar series, which is called Preparing Your QTE Nomination. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands of which we all meet and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Again, a couple of quick housekeeping things. If you've been to one of these before, you'll know the drill, but we have the cameras and microphones switched off for guests of today's webinar. So please use the chat function or the Q&A function within MS Teams to add contributions. And if we have time at the end, we'll be glad to cover off any questions that you have as well by putting your hand up. We'll just see how we go with timing there. I would also like to introduce our state coordinator, Simone Smiles, to the call. She's the driving force behind the Queensland Training Awards. Many of you who've been involved before know Simone, so it's fantastic to have Simone on the call. Do you want to say a quick hello, Simone? Excellent. You're on there.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I just had to find the microphone. There's all these little things popping up. Welcome to today's webinar. By all means, if you have any questions as we're going through things, please put it in the chat or pop your hand up and we'll get to you. I will throw back to Tom, but I just want to acknowledge that we've got three amazing mentors in the room from last year's training awards, and you know, these awards actually you know, excellence within vocational education and training, and these guys are you know, versions of that. So I'll throw back to Tom and he can welcome the mentors.
Perfect. Thanks, Simone. That's exactly right. Just before we do that, I wanted to mention that we had a session last week that went in a bit more about the why of the awards, looking at the categories and the criteria. But today's session is a bit more practical. We're going to look at how to prepare a nomination, and we're going to hear from some past winners, as Simone just mentioned, but most importantly, we want to give you some practical tips to help you to tell your story clearly and convincingly by way of a QTE nomination. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our special guests for today. They were exactly where you are 12 months ago, looking down the barrel of nominating, and they've done so brilliantly, had some great success in the awards in 2025, and they've been gracious to come back today to be part of this webinar. So I'd like to introduce Jess Bichsel, who's our 2025 Queensland Apprentice of the Year. We've got Cameron Flack as well on the call, who's our 2025 Queensland Vocational Student of the Year, and Sally Vico, who is from Murroona Gardens, who are our 2025 Queensland Medium Employee of the Year, and also were a bronze medalist at the Australian Training Awards in Darwin as well. So we'll weave our guests into the conversation as we go. But yeah, please, as Simone said, leverage the fact that they're here and put questions through. But I'll just throw to the guys now. So guys, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your training journey, maybe elevator pitch style in about a minute or so? And if there was one message you wanted to give to people thinking about nominating, what would that be? I might start with Jess, if that's okay.
Hi, of course. Hi, everyone. As you know, I'm Jessica Bichsel. I'm a qualified carpenter and a proud Queensland Apprentice of the Year through the Training Awards. I'm also a passionate advocate for people in trades. I didn't grow up knowing how to use power tools. I learned everything from the ground up, and the process really rebuilt my confidence along the way. I started my career in all different types of areas. I've done aged care, call centers, retail, tourism, and I was really never able to find anything that was able to stick and I actually enjoyed. I was constantly in and out of jobs. COVID 2019 happened. I was working on Bribie Island in tourism, sort of first one to lose my job straight out the door. And I found myself losing my home and moving back home with my dad in Ipswich. And he sort of pushed me into the apprenticeship to do carpentry. I was so lucky to be able to get it that quickly. I was the first female that had ever worked for the company and their first ever apprentice. So we were sort of all learning together. It was a small cell phone company, skill set building. And since then, I've now used my voice to mentor apprentices. I speak at industry events, and I like to challenge those outdated stereotypes about vocational education as well. I really believe trades aren't a backup plan. They're powerful, life-changing career pathways, and I'm excited to dive deeper with it all today with you.
Beautiful, Jess. Thank you so much. Cam, how about you next, mate?
How are we doing, guys? Yeah, I'm Cameron. I was the Queensland Vocational Student of the Year last year. My journey and my sort of story behind vocational training sort of starts I was working in pubs for a very long time, and can be a pretty malicious industry in the way how it affects the community. So I sort of wanted to get out. I had no idea what I wanted to do, so I got offered a fly-in, fly-out position as a trades assistant in the oil and gas industry. So I went from serving beers to out in the desert at 50 degrees. I started doing my degree in psychology and criminology just to sort of fill in the time. And I sort of found once I got near the end of that I still had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. And then an opportunity came up in the workplace health and safety. So I did my diploma in workplace health and safety. And I moved into that there. And honestly, it's been a wild ride. Yeah, 2 years ago, I was swinging off spanners outside in the desert, and now through this vocational education journey, it's been a pretty amazing journey, and that's how we ended up here. So it was a bit of a slog. I was going to sleep at 6:30 at night and waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning so I could get 4 hours of study in before I started work in the morning for a 12-hour day. But no, well worth it, and it was a great journey.
Excellent. Thanks, Cameron. Sally from Murroona, say hello and tell us a bit about your amazing organisation there.
Oh, thank you. So I'm Sally Vico. I'm the Executive Support Manager at Murroona Gardens. So I live in Bowen in North Queensland, which is a small regional rural town. Aged care is one of the fastest growing industries in Australia, and we have historically struggled for staff. So being able to run our traineeship program, which we developed 5 years ago, we put through 10 trainees a year, which I think is extremely impressive for a small town, giving locals the opportunity to be able to start a career and then progress that career through further vet studies such as enrolled nursing, then hopefully university studies to be a Bachelor of Nursing. And so this year we're looking at expanding our vet training into lots of different areas because aged care just isn't nursing. There's maintenance, administration, lifestyle, and we've just engaged our first 2 apprentice chefs. So yeah, very proud and very, very honoured to be part of the Training Awards.
That's brilliant. Great story across the board, guys. Thank you so much, and we're looking forward to your contributions more as we press on. So I'll move on now to preparing your nomination. So your written nomination in the Queensland Training Awards is your opportunity to tell your story. And just to fully step it out, when you enter the awards by completing a written nomination, and these can be done by yourself as a nominee or by by someone else as a nominator on your behalf. But we've broken down the nomination process into 5 simple steps. So I'm just going to see if I hit play that the video is going to play for you all. Excellent. So yeah, the video does it much better than I could, but just to recap that quickly, the 5 steps we've got to check your eligibility and requirements, and we did go through that in quite a bit of detail in our webinar last week around the eligibility and requirements, but that's all available on our website. It's about gathering supporting materials as well, like photos, headshots, copies of certificates, and letters of support that really add to your submission. Drafting your responses, get onto that now, but there's lots of support and tools available to help in that process of writing, which I guess doesn't come naturally to everybody, but it is really just about telling your story in an authentic voice. Definitely go through a review and refining process, chat to some friends or colleagues or mentors to show, I think that our mentors today will attest that sharing your nomination with someone else can actually give you some different perspectives on what you're doing and some good feedback. So that's a very important step as well. And then submitting via our online portal. Just a reminder that our nominations are closing on Sunday, the 22nd of March this year, which is about 3 weeks away. And it's closing on the Sunday there at midnight. So definitely mark it in your calendar and work towards that date. But in terms of drafting responses, this is, I guess, the part that a lot of people might be a bit apprehensive about actually writing the nomination. But the good news is that there's, as I said, there's plenty of guidance, and you don't need to be a professional writer to do this. The judges aren't looking for perfect language or perfect wording. They really want clarity. They want to be able to understand who you are, what you've learned through training, and what difference it's made to you and those around you. So you might even think about your written responses as almost like your first interview, because the judging, before the judging panel ever meet you in person for an interview, this is how they get to know you and ultimately decide whether you progress to the next stage. So your goal here should be to help them clearly see and understand your journey, your achievements, and your potential. So there are drafting templates available on our website to all categories in the awards, as well as examples of successful past nominations. So you can see precisely how a person or organisation in the category you're looking at has approached that nomination task, and certainly draw inspiration or ideas from that. For the individual categories in the awards, a typical nomination would be an overview section of 300 words, where you can sort of give a bit of your background or an overview of yourself and your achievements. Then there's 4 criteria to respond to, with 400 words allowed in each. These generally cover off things like career and study achievements, team and communication skills, ability to be an ambassador for training, which we'll touch on a bit later as well, and other qualities and pursuits. Please note that there's an additional section on community engagement for those who identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander and would wish to nominate in that category as well. For the equity category as well, this focuses on the challenges and barriers to accessing and participating in vet and employment, how you overcame these, and the future goals. And for vet teacher trainers as well, the word count jumps up a little bit to 600 words, and the criterion focus on excellence and initiatives, learner needs, commitment to vet training, and links to industry and community. For the organisational categories, there is a business summary section, and then 3 to 5 criteria, depending on small or large, and then there are 800 words in each of those. They generally cover off on the extent and quality of training that you provide your employees, achievements attributed through training, integration to business planning, and innovation. And then finally, the last dot point is on artificial intelligence or AI usage. So just to comment on that, tools like ChatGPT and others can be really helpful in brainstorming and refining ideas, but we would advise against using AI-generated content verbatim in your awards application, because authenticity and personal insight and a genuine connection to your achievements are really what is the compelling part of a submission. So that just can't be replicated by AI. So the judges and those who read your nominations will be able to see if it lacks that human touch. So make sure that your application truly reflects your voice and experiences. Okay. So we've got some writing do's and writing don'ts to cover off, and I'll whip through these and then call on our special guests again for their insights on the writing part. But in terms of the big ticks for writing nominations, definitely be clear and concise. Write to your audience from a reader's perspective, and don't overcomplicate things unnecessarily. Provide specific examples to illustrate your points. I think that's a really big thing that we encounter a lot, is that a lot of statements are made, or sort of knowledge is presumed in a trade area or something like that. But it is really helpful to provide specific examples to illustrate those points, and assume that the reader doesn't have that knowledge, and delve a bit deeper into the story. It's important to adhere to the word limits, because if you go over that word count, it will literally cut you off. So the judges won't be able to see beyond that word count anyway. So make that word limit count. And then proofread. Typos and grammatical errors aren't the best, so try to avoid them wherever possible. And in terms of the don'ts, don't leave any questions unanswered, or one sentence responses. You can try to leverage the word count as much as you can. There's plenty of examples that we see in nominations that are, I guess, quite basic, but are lacking that bit of a deeper dive. So it might be that someone says, I chose this training path because it was close to home, or I needed a job, and it provides the necessary skills. I think if you're talking about that generally, it'd be better to delve deeper into, what kind of skills did you develop? What did it mean to you to get that position, and work and earn while you learn, and things like that. That really adds color to the story, rather than something general like, my training has improved my skills and ability to do things, and I've gained knowledge. That's all great, but examples beyond that are very helpful in sort of piecing together that nomination piece. And certainly don't ignore the criteria as well. Tailor your responses to the specific criteria outlined in the category. Okay, so I'll put the call out to our special guests, Jessica, Cameron and Sally. If you could cast your minds back to when you were first putting a nomination together, do you have any advice or ideas to share from your personal experience in that space? Jess, I might start.
Yeah, I'll jump in, Tom.
Oh, okay. Go for it, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think it can be quite an intimidating process. You will read some stories or hear some stories where you're like, sort of gives you a bit of imposter syndrome, like, do I deserve to be here? But I think what you really got to remember in those moments is that you're the only one that knows your story. Whatever it took you to get there, wherever it's taking you in the future, that's a very unique experience. And sort of just really, like Tom said before, try and stay away from that AR, because it's that personability, that what makes your journey unique to you, and what does it mean to you that you've been through this. Another thing there as well, it can be quite difficult to write about yourself sometimes. I definitely thought, how am I going to write, 1,200 words about myself? So one thing that really helped me was I reached out for, because you got to get some like recommendations or like reports from people around you. So I reached out to a few people around me and said, hey, can you please write me a letter for this? And they sort of showed me their perspective of my journey, what they saw while I was going through my training journey. And yeah, definitely really helped me sort of lock in and get what I wanted down on paper.
Oh, thanks, Cameron. That's a really nice thought there. Yeah, getting some different perspectives on your training journey. I think that's a great idea. Jessica, how about you?
Yeah, so pretty much what Cameron said is bang on. When I feel like I've spoken to a lot of people since then about when they're doing award nominations, and when you first start putting together a nomination for yourself, it is really uncomfortable to talk about yourself in that way, especially in a format of 1,200 or plus words. So my biggest advice would be, don't downplay your story. We're often our own harshest critics. So what feels normal to you might actually be really incredible and impressive to someone else. So take time to reflect on the journey you've had, not just your wins, but think about your challenges, your setbacks, your growth. That's where all the depth is. So be specific, be honest, don't be afraid to show your personality. the judges aren't just looking at your achievements, they're looking at the impact you've made, the resilience you have, and your leadership potential as well. And practically give yourself more time than you think you need. And as Cameron said, you know, get your mentors, get supervisors to review it. And don't be afraid to rewrite sections until it truly sounds like you. And same with what Tom said, don't let AI generate your entire synopsis of yourself. You can use it if you don't have someone to look over it, and use it to edit what you need, but your nomination should be authentic, not corporate, not over polished. It should just be real.
Yeah, that's really nice, Jess. I totally agree. Very well put. Very well put. Sally, we really appreciate, from an organisational perspective, the process of putting together a nomination to sort of showcase what the organisation does in terms of training. Yeah, share your thoughts. That'd be great.
So writing for an organisation was a little bit different as an individual. I didn't have to sell myself. I was lucky enough to be able to sell our whole organisation. So one of the things that we started off with was, what does Murroona Gardens do differently? How do we handle this differently to everybody else? Then we have a look at what effects does what we do with our training have on our community, on our organisation and our community as a whole. And I would certainly recommend anybody who's considering applying is to start gathering some statistics, have those graphs showing how it's increased your staff retention, how much you spend on your training, because the judges certainly look for evidence in the benefits. So.
Yeah, absolutely, Sally. That's great advice as well. And same with, I guess it's an opportunity to promote the great things that an organisation does as well, and also noting that for organisational categories, you know, you can nominate year after year, because obviously the activity that you do in training changes. And so we've had a lot of examples of organisations who've had a crack at nomination and you know, done good things, but then come back year after year, because it really is about putting down on paper like the training achievements of an organisation. So that's a good way to approach it as well. We have a lot of organisations who support the awards in that way as well. Thank you, guys. I'll move on to the next section, which is the supporting materials, which both Cameron and Jessica mentioned, and Sally as well. So the supporting materials, they can really strengthen your story as well. So photos and letters of recommendation and project outcomes can provide that extra, proof of the achievements. But also please note that the supporting materials won't compensate for written responses that are lacking. So the judges, make their decisions primarily on how clearly you address the written criteria, but the supporting materials are also very important as well. So there's a couple of required ones there. So for an individual category, we'd be after a professional presentable headshot in high resolution, and not a selfie so much, but more of a sort of like a corporate type photo and headshot. For pardon me, particularly for organisations, having 3 to 5 workplace or publicity photos is very, very helpful as well. But also ensuring that you've got the consent organised for everyone that's pictured in the photo. If they're identifiable, that's certainly helpful as well. And also for individuals, the copy of the certificate of qualification that you've completed, if you have done it at the time of submitting the nomination. Sometimes it's still forthcoming, and that's okay. But copies of any competencies as well. The optional supporting materials as well. We've got sort of letters of support from trainers, employers, and mentors. That's a really great thing, and I think the special guests on the call have reiterated that point, that's a really handy thing to do. And again, that takes a little bit of time, so it's better to factor that in as well. Any newspaper or newsletter things that you might have had along the way, and photocopies of other awards and certificates. Just pragmatically, when doing it online, we allow up to 5 A4 pages or single-sided A4 pages of optional supporting materials, and the attachment cannot exceed 10 megabytes. So just be mindful of that when you're attaching those materials. Okay. So being an ambassador for training is a criterion that appears in the individual nominations, and it's probably one that we've had feedback that people sort of aren't sure about what that sort of entails. It doesn't mean that you need to be famous or already be an award winner somewhere else. In the Queensland Training Awards context, and at the start of this process, being an ambassador for training really simply is someone who positively represents training and influences others through their actions. So this can be sort of formal or informal. Many strong nominations contain examples of really simple, genuine actions, and people may or may not even think about doing something at work that is ambassadorial in its nature, but it's important that you might consider these things and step them out a bit more. So examples that we've put together broadly is, could be things like mentoring apprentices that are behind you in their journey, sort of thing. Speaking, having opportunities to speak. It might be at toolbox meetings or more formally at schools or career events or expos, things like that. Helping someone else in their training as well, being trusted with additional responsibilities at work as well, promoting your industry via social media channels, participating in skills competitions as well is a big one that we have. Our World Skills competition in Queensland as well. That's a great pathway, or industry activities as well. And as well as volunteering in community or industry organisations and utilising the skills you've developed through training. The judges aren't necessarily looking for that, that star power, although it doesn't hurt, but they're looking for leadership and positive influence. It's about what you've learned, why it matters, and not just representing yourself, but representing vocational education and training more broadly. A key question that you might ask yourself when thinking about responding to this criteria for ambassador for training is how have I helped someone else succeed because of training? I would love to call on the special guests today to share some of their insights or thoughts about what being an ambassador for training means as well, from that nomination part all the way through the journey. I think you've have you found yourselves talking about training or apprenticeships or other pathways to other people as well? And yeah, any examples of what being an ambassador means to you would be great.
Yeah, I think with that, it's if you really can just highlight to the people around you the difference it made when you completed the training. Like a lot of people find themselves in positions, whether it's like what they do for a living, for example, and vocational training is that pathway to move you into a position where you do something that you love to do. So basically what I've done at work over the past 2 or 3 years is really highlight how doing all of these training courses and becoming vocational student of the year, how it really has changed my pathway. And that's just sort of showing the people around you the impact it can have, and sort of encouraging people that are sort of stuck in that place that are not sure what to do next. Really highlighting the opportunities with vocational training has. So yeah, that's mainly for me. And
just on that, Cam, before we move on, that work that you do in sort of workplace health and safety, does that have a bit of a natural intersect with being an ambassador? So if you're sort of, trying to uphold that, workplace health and safety and that sort of idea, did you find any sort of intersection in that sort of core work that you do as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I might be a little bit biased, but I like to think that workplace health and safety sort of guides the culture of the company. If you can get your safety culture on board, you can get people talking about their mental health and working together as a team and working safely, then everything sort of comes together there. So how I was able to do that, it sort of puts me in a position where every morning, for example, I talk for about half an hour in front of everyone, and we really sort of push down, and I encourage people to come and have those conversations with me. I work with about 180 different people. So yeah, really highlight that, hey, look, there are a lot of opportunities in our company. I've seen TAs become supervisors, superintendents, truck drivers, mechanics, and that's all just, based off, hey, look, if you are thinking about a change or you want to do something different, come in and have a chat with me. And yeah, I'm pretty lucky that I'm put in a position where people, I have the opportunity to talk to people and help them through that journey.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for sharing that, Cameron. That's great. Jess, I'd love to hear your you certainly have that ambassador idea down pat because of your involvement with some different organisations and groups and a social media channel as well. Share a little bit about your ambassador sort of journey as well.
Especially since the Queensland Training Awards, I've noticed a lot of doors have opened that I didn't know could open. But I find myself now speaking a lot more openly about what apprenticeships are actually like instead of those outdated stereotypes. The resilience it does take to stay in a trade. And as Cameron was saying, you know, with the mental health on side as well, making sure that we're actually able to open up and speak to our colleagues and make sure, you know, everyone's having a safe and happy workspace. We want to go to work and we want to enjoy ourselves. Something else that I've been speaking about is the confidence you build when you push through those uncomfortable stages, and how growth shouldn't stop the day that you qualify. It should only just be beginning. When I finished my apprenticeship, I was at the point of like, oh, what now? That was like my 5-year plan. So it was just about taking those steps to make sure I'm continuously pushing myself. I've been mentoring newer apprentices, especially young women that are stepping into male-dominated industries. A lot of what I do isn't technical, it's more of a mindset. It's about reminding them that feeling out of place doesn't mean that you don't belong. Winning hasn't made me feel finished. If anything, it's made me more passionate about being visible, speaking at events, schools, expos. When I'm speaking, I try to be honest about the hard parts as well as the wins. Young people, we don't need a polished highlight reel. They see that enough on Instagram. So I'm just trying to step into that authenticity and just being real with everything and everywhere I go.
Yeah, thank you. That's really nicely put, actually. Yeah. You certainly have a lot of off those examples. I think it is accessible for people to think about. We've got some claps coming through. Might have some supporters on the call, which is lovely. I guess the idea is to if you're looking at this nomination and thinking, okay, so how am I an ambassador? It could be small things, day-to-day things as well, that at work or outside of work that certainly can be sort of positioned in that sort of ambassadorial light about promoting the value and the excellence of vocational education and training and how it influences people and organisations and communities as well. That's the biggest part of the awards, really. We're looking for those ambassadors for training that can share their story and inspire those that are coming through. So, Sally, as well, I think. Any reflections on you about how sort of you positioned your organisation as an ambassador for others in the work that you do and the outcomes you've seen through commitment to vocational education and training?
As our organisation, we have really formed a strong relationship with our local high school. So we only have one high school here. And through that partnership, we've really opened up a whole new network in our little town of Bowen. A lot of people didn't know about vet training and that we can offer that here in our own small town. So I feel like we're leaders in a bit of the training industry of encouraging other industries to go, this really makes a difference. This trains people in your community to stay in your community and grow in your community. So I feel like we've certainly put our little town on the map and encourage those within our small regional community that you can do this too.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's about providing those opportunities for individuals, but it's also providing workforce solutions, for your own organisation, but that has flow-on effects to the whole community. I think that's a really great example, Sally, and it also goes to show that from the Queensland Training Awards perspective, the scope is statewide, and we have amazing examples of excellence in training in all corners of the state, and the impacts that it has in real communities and real people. So yeah, that's a great example. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next section, which is actually another sort of point of, I guess, frequently asked question. We did cover this one a little bit last week, but what are the judges looking for? It's where we're looking to take a little bit of the mystery out of it. It's certainly not a silver bullet answer, because there are certainly a lot of factors at play when nominations sort of go through that journey and that process from submission through to review, and the judges then review the nominations and then progress to interviews as well. But in terms of what they're looking for, so judges don't look just for the person with the most awards or the most technically skilled or the biggest organisation. There are a lot of factors that the judges consider, and I've listed them there on the slide. So the first one is evidence. So judges look for proof, not just claims. Saying that I'm a strong team member isn't enough. You need to sort of show how. For example, instead of saying, I'm passionate about my industry, a better way could be to delve a bit deeper into an example of why you're passionate about your industry. For example, I organised talks for new apprentices and helped 3 first years complete their safety competencies. So it is about providing evidence. They want to see development as well. Not just that I completed my qualification, but how what you do now, like what you can do now that you couldn't do before. Increased responsibility, confidence and skills applied in real work situations is a really great thing to put into your nomination. In terms of impact, the judges might be asking what changed because of you or your training. The impact might be personal to you through transformation. It might be improvement in the workforce, or a change in the workplace, or it might even be community benefit as well. I think if there was an apprentice out there who volunteered time to help, in their community, clean up after a storm or something like that, I think that's an example of impact that might just be sort of, something that I did along the way. But if you think about that, reflect on it and go, well, that's actually an example of, through my skills, having a positive impact in the community. So I think that's worth showcasing and exploring. That idea about authenticity as well is what judges look for. I think we've got some authentic voices in the room, as you can tell, with Sally, Jessica and Cameron. Authenticity is key, because you need to be able to walk the talk and share your story in a way that resonates with people. And I think we've got great examples of that here today. When you think about judges reading so many nominations at a time, then naturally going to compare nominations against each other, and the strongest ones are the ones that sound real and personable. Just going back to that AI idea, which we've covered a few times, using AI for ideas and structure and editing is fine, but yeah, the responses should still reflect your own voices and experiences. And then the fourth point there is reflection and potential. So the judges may look also at what motivates you, what you plan to do next, and your ability to reflect on what you've learnt and how you've developed over the course of your training journey, and what you plan to contribute to your industry in the future as well. Special guests, do you have any thoughts or ideas on, in your experience, what you think the judges are looking for?
I think what you said. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
It's the training awards in Darwin all over again. Yeah, look, I think that point number 3 there is the authenticity. Like I said earlier, it's about your story. So, like the impact and evidence, reflection, all very important. But if you can get your story across and tell it about like how much it means to you and how much it's changed you and the people around you, yeah, what it really means to you, just be really authentic, be yourself. And that, I think that was probably the really big point there.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I can go.
Go for it.
Yeah, okay, cool. In my experience with what I think the judges were looking for, it would be more than just someone that's good at their job. It'd be looking for people that that show growth, impact, and leadership, sort of some things I touched on before. They're looking, yes, your skills and achievements matter, but what really stands out is how you've overcome your challenges, how you contribute to your workplace and your community, and also how you represent vocational education as a whole as well. Authenticity is probably a word you hear a lot throughout this webinar, but like you couldn't put any more on how authentic you need to be to just show your personal skills. They want to see that you understand the value of training, that you're passionate about it. It's not about being perfect. It's just about showing your self-awareness and your potential to inspire others, I think.
Really, really well put. And I guess another point to make off the back of that is that in the judging process, there's actually different weighting given to the written part versus the interview part. So knowing that authentic voice definitely needs to be there in the written part, but then when you get the opportunity to interview, it is more heavily weighted on the interview, because if you think about the written part, there's, I guess anyone can write a great nomination, but it is the idea is that those who progress well have that authentic voice and are able to share their story in a compelling way. So that's important consideration right throughout the process. Sally, would there anything that you'd like to add there about what the judges might be looking for when you've undertaken some of those experiences?
So what I believe the judges were looking for in an organisation perspective is the impact. What impact do you have on your community? I just feel like you really need to think outside the box and certainly bring your passion. Make sure your passion's in your words, your passion's in your interviews. So I feel that's what the judges were looking for.
Yeah, spot on. That's great. Couldn't agree more. I'd also throw to Simone here as well as the coordinator. We've supported nominees and judges for a number of years, and it is always a question that we get asked about what the judges are looking for. But it certainly is around those ideas. Are there any other reflections you wanted to add to this point, Simone?
I mean, the guys have hit the nail on the head when it comes to the story. So I guess from my side of things, it's more be quite succinct in telling your story. You don't have a lot of time. So you have to really know your story and know the points that you want to get across. Now, they would have read your actual written application, so they know what's actually in there. So tell them anything new that's evolved, that's actually happened since you wrote that application. Tell them about the new things, but be quite succinct and don't be afraid to tell the story. When it comes to actually being the event ambassador and, sort of moving on to the national platform, it's a completely different ball game. It's actually elevated because you're actually competing against so many other amazing people, but across the whole of Australia. So, you really need to be that standout. And I think that, being, authentic and actually telling your story, being succinct in your delivery and backing yourself, absolutely backing yourself, knowing what you're doing in your community and how you're actually, transferring your skills, in your workplace and in your personal life, all helps and contributes to a great interview and a great outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Simone.
Even something I could touch on with something that you said sort of reminded me, even putting in your nomination what you are wanting to do in the future. I had done that in mine as well. And it was the judges touched on it when I went through my interview processes, like things that I want to do to continue on my path. Might be just another thing to throw in there.
And what are some examples of those, Jess, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so some of mine were volunteering that I want to do in Nepal, which I'll hopefully be doing this year. So things like that were, what do I want to do to continue to give back? So volunteering, one of my things my dream was to speak at the Sydney Build Expo, which I'll be doing in August. I think it is August.
Wow.
So yeah, some of the things that I was like, this is what I really want to do. And when you actually are able to achieve them, you're able to put that into your stories.
Great, lovely example. Thank you. That's brilliant. Okay, so just a few more details. We're coming towards the end of our time. It certainly does go quickly. But just a quick reminder about submitting your nominations. So the nominations close at midnight on Sunday, or 11:59 p.m. to be precise, sorry, on Sunday the 22nd of March, which is a couple of weeks away. And a reminder that early submissions are always very welcome, so to avoid that last minute stress. Submitting is really easy through the online portal. You don't have to wait till the last day. In case of any technical issues, you can edit your nomination after submitting as well, if you like, right up until that closing date. If you head to qta.awardsplatform.com, you can either create an account if you're the first time user, or you can log in to an account. And if you're creating an account for the first time, you'll receive a confirmation email, and you must verify your email address before you can log in and start that nomination. And please ensure that that JavaScript is enabled, so you can take full advantage of the online nomination portal as well. Okay, so also just a reminder on some of the key timings. We've got just for 2026 broad outlook, we've got nominations closing on the 22nd of March. The judging process happens from the very end of March and throughout into May. From the end of July and then into mid-August, we'll have our 7 regional final events across Queensland, where the 10 awards categories are competed. It's contested at a local level first, and then the winners from those events will come through to the state final and gala dinner, which is happening on the 19th of September this year in Brisbane. And then the Australian Training Awards for 2026 are happening in Sydney on the 20th of November as well. Just wanted to flag that we've got a lot of support available, and you're certainly not alone in this process. There's a treasure trove of resources on our website, and we've also got our regional network as well. So you can find all the contact details for our regional coordinators through our website. They are absolutely the first port of call if you have a question about the process or their platform. They're very much able and available to give that assistance. You can shoot us an email, Simone and I and Ellen, who's on the call. That comes through to QLD Training Awards at detect.qld.gov.au. And yeah, but I guess we will throw to questions now if there are any on the line. But before we do that, I just wanted to get our special guests one more time. Just any final reflections on your training journey, or any inspiration you might want to give to those who are just starting out. Any final comments?
Yes.
Did you want to go?
No, you can go.
Oh, okay. Something that I think, like, if you're if you get through, something that I can't put enough pressure on is what stood out most for me was the community. I met so many incredible finalists, industry leaders and mentors. They genuinely care about shaping the future of the workforce and care about you as well. Like, winning such an honor, but like the reward is so much higher with all the great people you meet, the confidence, the connections, the platform. Since winning, it's opened up so many doors for me. I was at TAFE doing a job ready future program with people trying to get into a trade from 18 years old up to 50. So the Queensland Training Awards will open so many doors for it if you let it. Just put your entire heart into it, be raw, honest and real, and it can take you in so many directions.
Thanks, Jess.
I think a big thing as well, like Jess said, one of the best things about this whole journey is the people you meet, the mentors and everything like that. Like, throughout the whole journey, it is life-changing in a way, especially if you make it to Queensland Awards and things like that. Like, it's a wonderful experience. And I think something to remind yourself is don't take it too seriously. Like, don't take yourself too seriously. You're telling your story. This is your opportunity to sort of think back about your journey, think back what's changed. And regardless of the outcome, it is just a fantastic journey and a fantastic opportunity for you to reflect and see where your life is and where your life's going in the future because of this journey.
Well, just like the individual finalists, as an organisational finalist, we didn't miss out on any of the fun either. I just wanted to give, if you were lucky enough to get through the written part of the nomination, my only advice is to rely on your coordinators. Simone's Mars was such great support for us, just encouraging us, not that she could give you any cheating hints to get through, but just that support to go out there, be passionate, tell them what you want to know, and then made the process of attending the awards so seamless. Everything was booked, everything was planned. So it was really wonderful. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Sally. That's
Thanks for
lovely.
the shout out, Sally.
Very well deserved. That's lovely. And we've got a nice comment on the chat as well. That's been incredibly helpful today's session. So thank you for that, Karan, as well. Lastly, put a call out if there's any other questions or comments in the chat, or if anyone wants to put their.
I've just answered some question and answers in the question and answer chat of this, but
Right.
we did receive 2 questions.
Yeah.
So the first question I got here is, need more details on how to nominate school-based RTO. I have 6 schools, but the RTO operations are managed centrally. I guess if you're entering each of the schools, and they've got the same RTO provider, it's the school it's the actual RTO that would have to actually enter. So it'd be the amount. So what's the RTO name? So you couldn't have 6 RTO names, do you have? So I guess we need a little bit more clarification on that question. So if you're online and that's your question, please can you actually shoot us an email through to the QTO website? That would be amazing, and we can get in contact and have a further chat about that. But essentially, depending on what is actually registered as an RTO, that is who can actually enter. And if you've got 6 schools and it's one RTO, well, then there's got to be one name of the RTO that all your schools sit under. Well, then it would be potentially a large training provider that you'd enter. But let's have a chat about that one. And question 2 is, please clarify how the student numbers are calculated. At any given time, our RTO has well under 500 active students. However, we deliver high volume short courses and record more than 500 completions annually. In contrast, we enroll approximately 100 students per year in full-time qualifications. Well, this one actually, whatever you actually report to NCVER, in the most recent data collection round, that's the number that you actually apply for in your application. Oh, yep, Dr. Schweder. Yes. Okay, fabulous. Dr. Schweder had the first, was asking about the school and the RTO, and she got her answer yesterday, so we're good.
Excellent. Great.
We're all over it, Dr. Schweder.
That's it. That's it, guys. Yeah, we certainly have the network available to answer questions along the way, and we do get quite a volume through, which we're very happy to help. It is about acquainting people with the awards, for those individual categories who haven't come across it before, and also supporting our organisations as well in nominating. So again, thanks everyone for your time. I'll just, before we finish, I'll leave you with one final thought. If you're wondering whether you're good enough to nominate, you're probably exactly the person that we want to hear from. In reality, the strongest nominations, as we've said throughout, they're not always the most decorated, but they're the most genuine or authentic. So thank you so much to our special guests today who've provided great examples of, where the value of sharing your story authentically and where it can take you. And just to echo that point, I think what often surprises finalists is that the experience doesn't necessarily just end at the event or when you write your nomination. We've got great connections through our QTA alumni network. They're supporting your apprentices, speaking at events, mentoring others, and sharing their journeys with their industries and communities. And in doing so, they become advocates for skills and training simply by telling their story. And we implore you to tell your story as well through a QTA nomination. So please start early as you can. We've got a couple of of weeks to go. It'll be a busy few weeks, but very much still time to put a nomination in. Use the resources available, talk to your regional network, and most importantly, and as Jess said, don't undersell yourself. Your everyday work and training journey may be exactly the story that someone else needs to hear. So on behalf of the Queensland Training Awards team, Simone and myself, Ellen online and Harry online as well. Hi, Harry. Just saw your comment before. And our guest speakers today, thank you so much for your time and participation. We hope to see your nomination come through soon, and we wish you the very best of luck with it.
Good luck, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
See
you,
you guys.